Tonight, it's an Orville double feature, followed by our thoughts with the exciting conclusion of The Old Man, and then we will finish with a loving tribute to Nichelle Nichols. All this coming up right now on The Writer Brothers. And welcome back to The Writer Brothers. I'm Petey York, kind of off camera tonight, though I'm going to go on camera real quick just for a second to share one of my new kind of life hacks here to get through this sickness. It's, of course, Canada Dry in a powder form that I can actually keep down and drink and stomach, unlike regular Canada Dry. I don't know, Corione, were you more of a burners guy too?
Actually, I'll be honest with you. We've got I've used a drink called Orangina. It's basically orange juice and club soda. But mostly because it burns everything in the throat out of the way so you don't taste pain anymore. That's been my solution.
Funny, that's why I use Coke.
Well, yeah, I like to use Coke for
burns my throat.
Yeah, sorry to talk over you, but I like to use Coke for my allergies. I actually found it because it's got some of the Coke specifically, not just cola, but Coca-Cola has a natural antihistamine. At least. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Sure
Coke is a little too 70s disco for
down
me.
Your mucus. Like, I don't think in any way it's good for you, but I know that it does the trick to clear my throat.
Now, Corione's about to promote the real Cola King, which of course we all know is Royal Crown Cola.
No, man. Jolt. 50,000 hackers can't be wrong, man.
And got a comment in the chat from Aaron D. Water and sometimes fruit smoothies. Can't stand soft drinks anymore. Too sweet. Thank you for that. Yes, and I think so. As you can tell, I'm off camera because I look like crap, and I usually don't care what I look like except when I'm, down with the sickness. It didn't test positive for what, but yeah, I usually post that song too when I'm sick. I think I forgot to today. So I will be off camera for the day and probably just handling some of the discussion while we get through. But I'd like to know, guys, what did we think of the Orville double feature since we missed last week because we had to take a break after 21 straight weeks? What'd you guys think of? But you could start with either episode. I don't think it really matters. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, both episodes hit like trucks, right? I mean, we got the episode of the Dolly Parton episode. Oh my gods, right? With Saint Dolly coming down from on high and reading the riot act to to the Mocklin females. We had the Mocklins leave, and the next episode they're signing up with the Krill. Holy crap, right? And it looked like they were building this like evil alliance of evil kind of thing going on, and we figured, well, the Union's in trouble. And then the Union just switches everything around, doesn't it? And we wind up with this crazy 180 of the Kalon are our friends now, and we're going to take the fight to the Krill and the Mocklins. It was a wild roller coaster of 2 episodes. It felt like it hit the lowest low in terms of feels, and then the highest high again on the upswing of the potential and the possible hope for the future. For a episode just before the finale, they've really left us in an interesting place, and I'm hoping I know where the finale is going to take us, but boy, I don't know. This has been one heck of a roller coaster of a season, and I've been enjoying the ride.
Yeah, and I'm totally right there with you. I was blown away by how much effects budget we got in episode 9. Now, the trailer for 6, I don't know. The teasers have been really solid in fooling me for several of them, and just really hey, like they feel like actual teasers, like they're not giving away the story, which is refreshing. And I was blown away. First of all, these are 2 feature-length films, by the way, guys. Technically, according to I believe it's the American Film Association that sets this, anything that is longer than 74 minutes, credits included, is technically a feature film. So these were basically the equivalent to what we would get as an Orville movie. And it's all been great. Yeah, episode 8 really won, and I was like, wow, I think 9's probably going to be a little bit of a dud, and then we're going to get a punch in the finale. But I think the finale is going for the soft kill. I think it's going to get mostly closure, and I think we're going to see we're going to see most loose ends tied up, probably with a little bit of a door open for the future.
Well, I've got a theory on it, and if it's what I think it is, it's going to mean a lot to everyone in this panel, because we're all dads. I think Mercer's going to go get his kid.
That would be quite an ending.
I'm talking like Arnold Schwarzenegger 70s Commando go get his kid, like kind of episode.
Perspective writer comment says from Aaron D says, Talia using her daughter to spite Mercer really felt wrong and real. As you see, she doesn't really want to do it. I agree. Go ahead, John.
It really feels like a child custody debate.
Yep.
Like she is ultimately trying to provide the best life for her daughter, but she knows that she is a part of an entire race of xenophobes, and so she has to cover and hide everything about her daughter. But it seems like she actually has taken steps to ensure that she's being cared for by reasonable parents, and that's shows how much of a commitment she actually has to her daughter, while at the same time, like, she hates everybody. She's xenophobic, so she hates Mercer at the core of her existence. And so in that version of child custody, it seems like she really is trying to do everything to not only like win, but at the same time like cut him at the intestines so he bleeds out. And it's like, for Mercer, he's like, all of this hurts because I had no idea for years. And for like, and not to mention like how many different times like Mercer's played with time, not to mention how many times he's like never really moved with anybody else except for his second. And I think that like really shows how much it's like cutting him in half. He's like, the one time I gave my heart to anybody else than Kelly, like I'm being gut. And this show just made everybody feel that. Really good point out, Arendi. That is on point.
Yeah,
my thoughts. Go for it.
I was also going to say, and I mean, and let's not forget, I mean, we had Ensign Karen for almost this entire season. And, you know, episode 9, man, the redemption arc that she went on. And it wasn't that she was actually trying to redeem herself. She was literally doing what she felt was right in the moment because, you know, partly because, you know, hey, it was the right thing to do because she's a Union officer, and partly because I think she just couldn't go on without her friend. And it was such a complicated and deeply focused ending for a character that we all just kind of, it was getting on my nerves anyway, right? And just having this beautifully complicated, deep, poignant, meaningful story going on with the background of a space battle that should make Lucasfilm stand up and go, oh, that's what we've been doing. You know, we should have been doing that, not the other thing. Oh, okay.
The games where you could fly the ships on the planet, like fighting over planets, Battlefront, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And some fan mail from Nemesis of Eden. The fire in her eyes shot was badass, and then some more fan mail from Aaron. Yeah, she went out with a bang, literally. And that whole episode, you know, that's like when you go to a concert, and if you've ever been to like, even if you're not into like classical music, try to find a live performance of a movie. I got to see Star Trek Beyond live in the theater, which, say what you will about the movie, you cannot say anything bad about the soundtrack. That Michael Giacchino really gave his heart to that one, and you can hear it in every note. And it's like this, the whole thing was a long ballad, a symphony, and then here's the big crescendo to the finale, and that's what the visual effects came off to me. Like, occasionally they felt a little cheap in some areas, but really it felt like such strong artistic style that really came to shine in this episode, but second to last episode of the season.
The best part about all of that was that like all the parts that kind of felt cheap felt the same cheap as they did in season 1. Like it just felt like they hadn't yet corrected that like area yet. They're working on it, but like clearly based on everything they've given us so far. And so like when I like look at their effort, I go like, yeah, it was kind of cheap, but like it was literally the best version of like a cockpit scene. We have yet to see a good cockpit scene for the space fighters where it's like both traveling over this planet that's literally not real while simultaneously like the pilot is talking. And I thought that they like any area that felt a little cheesy, they did their very, very best, and they haven't figured it out. Cat attack there. No, so like my thoughts on, and I think this is actually pretty interesting, is because you called her Ensign Karen, Corion, but I think that's like a misunderstanding of what a Karen is, because like Ensign Burke wasn't so much of a Karen as she was me. Yeah. Okay, fair. And a total kitty photo bomb. Like she was Ensign Gen Z. She was Ensign kid who finally made it to the fleet and thought everybody was gonna like be a hard charging badass, but in reality everybody has mixed feelings about everything. Some of them are here to explore, some of them are here to kill the Kalons, some of them are here because they're here and this is where they were born and it's all they know. And so like she is like, well, I grew up hard charging. And no, like, that's not what the military is. That's not what anything is. Like, once you actually meet the group, it's like everybody has a different reason for being here.
Yeah.
And everybody's different reason is what makes that thing so great. And in the case of the Orville, that's exactly what makes it great. Is like, Mercer is like, I wanted to lead people. I have no idea where I want to lead them to.
Yeah.
But I want to be a leader.
Fan mail.
Himself is leadership.
Fan mail from Nemesis of Eden. I feel like Kelly is more of a Karen than Ensign Charles. I would agree with season 1 Kelly. Season 1
Kelly is the Superman, where Karen is the dude from The Boys.
I
guess. Like, Kelly actually is 100% a leader by the book, does exactly what you're supposed to do as a person who has individual command of their surroundings. Like, when she deals with Clyden, she's very like, I will beat you to death if you think that, like, you're gonna disrespect your daughter.
Yeah, I'm talking about season 1 Kelly. And I think
but even
that might
then,
be what Nemesis of Eden is saying,
like,
but
Kelly as a whole, to me, is the Superman version of Omni-Man's Karen. Like, if Karen was a version of Superman, Karen would be Omni-Man, or the one from The Boys. I can't think of it.
Oh, Homelander.
Homelander. Yeah, so Karen is like Homelander, whereas Kelly is Superman. Like, both of them are getting to the manager, but one of them's going to be more professional.
Fair enough. I will say this, though.
Now, okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't get into this, but if you want to talk about Homelander and professionalism, that's one thing he's very good at, but that's another discussion.
Well, I will say this, though, guys, and this is something I noticed. After watching that space battle in the last episode, and watching the obvious homages to Star Trek, did anyone else notice who was in the credits as a consultant? John Favreau.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that, because I know that Eric, not Rick Berman, but the other
Brandon Braga?
Brandon Braga, that's right. I was saying Eric. I got Eric Bana in my head, which is an actor. But anyway, yeah, Brandon Braga wrote I think episode 8.
Yeah,
if I'm remembering correctly. And so yeah, and that's just it. This is why I keep, I'm gonna put this in the chat, but this is why I started this one, and why I'm probably gonna keep doing this one, even if we don't, especially if we don't get an Orville season 4, which I'm not gonna. Look, guys, I'm not really that superstitious, but I'm a little bit stitious. Quote Michael Scott. Yeah, Michael Scott, P.D. York. So I think that we will get a season 4, because if Disney's smart, this is their response to Paramount, and I mean, at this point, Orville is Star Trek. There's no debate about it, and I'm done making excuses for new Trek. I tried to enjoy Strange New Worlds as much as I could, but episode 9 is a clear, definitive difference. Please let me finish. Please let me finish.
Oh, it's gonna help.
Oh, just let me finish. It's. I want to make this one point, and then I'll let you come in. Look at episode 9, season 3 of episode 9, season 3 of Orville, and episode 9 of Strange New Worlds side by side. What do you have? You have a character. The difference is I actually liked Hemmer, but I barely knew him, and they kill him off in the most stupid way possible. And they give the most dumbass excuse possible. I'm gonna be honest. Say what you will about me. I teared up with Ensign Burke dying. Initially, I kind of got a little choked up and was like, okay. Then the next instance, it was Isaac's eulogy.
Yeah.
That was right up there with Kirk in Star Trek 2, because that was just oh my gosh, it was so it started so mundane and so robotic, and then by the end it's like, okay, he's got to be developing emotions or something, because he's connected to it too well and too easily. So,
and I mean, you want to talk tearjerkers? The episode before that, look, I've despised Clyden since we first since we started creating that divide, and then we get frigging Clyden coming in that last episode right near the end, and just coming over and consoling his daughter and being a dad, and
the best
straight
dad
up
he's ever been.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a tearjerker there too.
Absolutely.
I'm sitting there going like, this is the Clyden that little girl has deserved since day one, and we finally got it. Honestly, I want like 4 more seasons of Orville at least, just so that we get a few more episodes every season of them exploring that family dynamic.
I want a Mocklin House spin-off of their family.
My favorite Mocklin?
Yeah, there you go. My favorite Mocklin. And it's just their family finally like growing and being together. I feel like that would just be such a sweet reality. And so this ties into my what I was trying to help you, Parker, in terms of reconciling Kurtzman Trek. Kurtzman Trek is the hyper soap opera dramatization of other ships within the Orville universe.
It's crap.
Oh, that's an interesting take. That New Trek is a soap opera in the Orville.
Exactly.
It's not even worthy of
because
that. I like what you're doing, but
in Trek, but it does deserve to be within Better Trek, aka the Orville, as a soap opera called Star Trek.
Did you guys ever watch Stargate SG-1?
No, not yet.
Okay. At one point during the Stargate SG-1 series, the United States military...
Fan mail. Arende says it gives tremendous credit to the actor who plays Clyden. It's impressive that he can go from complete asshole to concerned father on a dime. Well,
oh yes.
In terms of like the actor being able to switch that, absolutely. And in terms of the writers being able to actually like show us a father that we hated viciously. Like over the last 3 seasons, Clyden has become one of the most hated characters on the Orville as his character Clyden, like, and then to see him come back, that to me is what made me actually tear up, was like, that's what a dad should do. And I understand how in some cases it's really hard for some dads to get there, but the fact that he got there is beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And fan mail from Skogly Jotun. If I mispronounced that, please correct me. Skogly Jotun. I will get around to it as best I can. I swear my Americanese is pretty good sometimes in just pronunciating words and names however I see them. Anyway, I miss the old 26 episode format where you could watch O'Brien and Julian's relationship build over. Yes. And I hope that with these feature-length film lengths that we've gotten, with this style of storytelling, that they'll give them more time, because I would still watch 26 1.5 hour episodes. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, if it's that good, I can't.
You mean when seasons 5, 6, and we're traveling through 7, and we watch 3, 4, and 5? All those 26 episodes.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm done. I put it in the thing, and that's the thing. It's crap Trek. It's not even K Trek or Kurtzman. It's crap, and it just shows like, yeah, you're right. It's a crappy soap opera in the Orville universe at this point. It doesn't. Seth has his political opinions and his political bias, and I have no issue with that because he's allowed to have opinions and bias. It's his show, but that's just it. Even with it being entirely his show, he still tries to bring nuanced perspective by mixing ideas around. And he's not really trying to be preachy, he's just talking. the way Gene Roddenberry talked. And that's what people don't get. That's what a lot of the new Trek fandoms don't understand, is that Roddenberry...
there's more to it.
Yeah, Roddenberry never went out of his way.
Learned today. Not today. It's something I've been learning over the last week over on Max Durat's channel on YouTube. Shout out to Max Durat. He was talking about this idea that once you have an opinion, it is your duty to learn the other side so that you can better defend your opinion against all other opinions. And that is something that Seth and Gene Roddenberry both exemplify in their writing, because so often do one of the core characters play the antagonist to Seth's opinion. And so often can fans just automatically jump on that train, but they so eloquently take the time to reorganize the story to make it still on you, the individual, to be more informed. And this is the way I love to think about it is the thought experiment. Like, if this thing were about to happen, what would it look like? Well, I can now turn to episode 3 of the Orville and start finding some version of that thought experiment without constantly feeling like I'm demonizing humans. I can take it to a more fantastical level and be more open-minded.
Well, let's look. I've said it many, many times, and I think this is kind of becoming a trope for me. The best sci-fi asks questions and allows the characters to answer them the way they would, but gives the audience the opportunity to question those questions and ask what they would do. Right?
Yeah. They almost always leave a position on the ship open for each individual audience member. They're never actually saying that the audience isn't a character in the story. Instead, they're saying, no, the characters of this story felt that.
Yeah.
I love that. It's so eloquent.
Well, it's the truth of the matter, right? I mean, take a look at the golden and silver ages of sci-fi. This is what they did. This is the core tenet of science fiction, is not to preach, but to ask the questions and leave the answers to the destiny of humanity. Right?
Yeah.
And
I think it's not to preach, it's to ponder, because like I said with the thought experiment thing, is there's so much sci-fi that just shows you things. And that whole idea of show don't tell, and in sci-fi it's literally this is a whole other world that has all of these problems. Now, based off of your understanding of reality, assume the best possible solution. Now also, this other group is the one that's actually going to do it, and we humans wrote them. So you feel it's not necessarily disconnect so much as it is watching a math problem, reading a math problem. Instead, you're watching it be presented and you still have to solve it. We still need to find out what is the answer to genetic mutation of the ones that are unable to consent, children, babies. So those are questions that need to be solved for every human.
I mean, let's just take a quick look at how Seth literally dealt with the trans. I hate even saying issue, but I mean, yeah. Look, he took it from the perspective of an individual. He said, "Look, this is this individual's life, and potentially made it. This is their life on the line," which dealt with a whole bunch of other issues, and then basically said,
"Which take a drink."
Yeah, fair enough. And then went, this is how these characters are solving it, but didn't make it so that this was the only right answer. It was, this is how these characters are solving it. And left it very much in the air.
Did that is Clyden is in the exact same shoes as his daughter. And I don't know how many people noticed that, but the one that had the most beef with her transitioning back to being a female was the one that also was in her position. Not necessarily a random, or just, you know, somebody who had never dealt with that dilemma ever in their life. Instead, the person that had the most beef was the one that like had never been given the option, and at this point had built walls that were so aggressive that it ruined a relationship, because those walls were also the only way Clyden could be the man that he felt he had to be. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to actually present the argument, because you watch Brutus and he goes,
or Bortus, yeah.
Bortus,
and I mean,
yeah, the whole time.
And I mean, even take a look at the scene where they are discussing the issue around the table. This was literally a round table discussion in the briefing room, and we're hearing all the other opinions. And they're trying to figure out, well, let's try to figure out what we can do here, right? Because we got to come up with a solution that's ultimately going to be best for the kid, because we all agree we want what's best for this kid. But how do we determine what is best for the kid? And how do we determine what is best for the kid in a way that isn't going to get us all fired or shot out of a cannon?
But
right?
Then also, how do we weigh the opinion of the child who may not be old enough to consent? And that was something that they actually took the time to weigh, was like, obviously this child has hardened themselves on this decision, and while they may grow to regret it later, it's better that they grow than just end it now. And that, again, just these beautiful, the most depressing question any parent could ever ask themselves, presented in such a way that there's also bits of comedy, and there's also bits of adventure and exploration, and you're not constantly felt like, I suddenly need to go sit my child down and have this debate. I also need to go research this debate, and I also need to take all these notes right now while I'm watching the show. Instead, it was like, no, this is a conversation that you should probably be having. Here's how to start.
And they also, though, and I think you're absolutely right, they also made it light enough that we could digest it without feeling weighted down. And that, I think, is an important part of what Seth does in terms of his writing, is he keeps it light enough to see how that goes, right? I'd also like, fan mail here. Nemesis of Eden. It'll be interesting to see Bortus and Clyden and Kelly's dynamic coming up, how Kelly is going to integrate into their family. That is a very interesting question. And I don't know if I was the only one of you guys that caught that kind of moment between Bortus and Kelly, where it looked like
obvious.
Things.
I knew for sure it was going to end in a kiss, and then it didn't, and I was like,
I was actually really happy it didn't.
Yeah, I was.
I was happy it didn't, but I was like, no, they're setting this up.
Also, I think it was one-sided. Honestly, Bortus is too much of a loyalist to. I mean, you could make the argument that, okay, maybe in that moment he could have been emotionally compromised by everything. Okay, fine. But
wait, I was getting the tension from him and not Kelly.
That's interesting, because I was getting it from her. I honestly thought she was the one that was like starting to fall, because she's like, which, it's not that stupid, guys. It's when you experience trauma with somebody, it can bring you together in weird ways. It's just.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about it from the perspective
movie from the perspective of the lower soldiers, and you will see how trauma builds blood.
Yeah. And
that's like, that's why I could see it being either or, but I totally felt that it was more Bortus. And the funny thing to me is, like, I thought it was Bortus more out of obligation to find a mother for his daughter.
You know what, though? What I think would be an interesting episode, and this is why I hope they get a 4th season, because this is the conversation I would love for Bortus to have. It's like, I have feelings for Kelly. I thought I loved Clyden, like as a man, like as I'm supposed to, but I find out he was female. Have I got issues or something? Like, because you got to think about it from his perspective. He's got to be questioning his whole identity based on like a couple of encounters and him going like, I don't know. Like, I'm worried I'm gonna get drunk at a at a concert and wake up next to a woman and be like, what the hell happened?
Yeah,
here,
he is gonna have a bit of an identity crisis because his mate is or was female, and now he has a daughter, and it's like this is
and he might have been interested in a female, like, in the heat of the moment. Like, he's gonna have some identity questions.
I think that's the funny thing, is that we have to remember the pornographic episode, where like he was very exclusively only with males. So like in his case, I think the identity crisis is more like the familial crisis, but also he's born in such a culture that literally does not have the feminine perspective. Like, there was no feminine perspective. So
and that brings us to a point I want to bring up. Go ahead.
Oh, so like he legitimately not only is like, he has no access to the feminine perspective in terms of a mother, a sister, a friend that's a female. Instead, he has to like realize that he's been lied to his entire education, everything. Because like, think about how much gender plays a role in modern education. Now imagine if one half of that was completely cut out, right? The history is going to change really hard.
Yeah.
And now add on top of that, being a part of a group of people that are way more open-minded than you, and also super up for casual discussion about anything, because you just moved out of the world that doesn't believe in any kind of conversation aside from commands, demands, and like reconciliation. Like, it's all business, nothing else. And now all of a sudden he's like, oh, these people are willing to talk to me about how I enjoyed my Friday night, and I have never actually remembered enjoying a Friday night. I just do my job, get it done, go home, eat dinner with my family, sleep, go back to work. Like, he's never actually discussed these thoughts in his head. And I think that's something that's so interesting that Ortis actually portrays. He actually displays a character that's like, I need to question this, but I'm gonna talk to myself about it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting position. Go ahead.
And this brings me to my complaint of the last couple of episodes, which, here it comes, right? This is just, and I think this is just kind of more of a circumstantial thing. I don't think it's what they're doing, but you have Bortus, you have Clyden, now Topa. These are some of the three most very dynamic Mocklins.
Progressive Mocklins.
Yeah, so to speak. But what bothers me, what I want to see in season 4, if we don't get it in the finale, and we're probably not going to get it, is I want to see the internal conflict on Mockless. Because, I'm sorry, them getting kicked out of the Union has got to be having more internal ramifications than just, we are. It feels like they're squishing the entire Mocklin race into a single dimension, which is unfortunate because they were so dynamic to begin with, being a single-gendered species. And the other thing is, too, we've had dissenters.
That's what the family represents. Like,
I hope so.
What
yeah.
Bortus and Clyden are supposed to represent is the civilian version of a Mocklin family. And then the government is very typical of any government. Like, no, we have an identity, we stick to it.
Well, but the problem with that is that they're already outsiders. They were primarily living on the Orville, not on Mockless, and for Clyden to defect is saying something, but that tells me, right now it tells me with them, and this is the other thing too. Okay, let's set the implications aside. Let's say they are still more one-dimensional after all. Okay, there's still going to be uproar about siding with the Krill. There's still going to be guys who are like, what are you, my mate was killed by the Krill during this incursion. I don't want to be friends with them. Why did we get kicked out of the Union? I didn't vote for that. What the hell? So,
yeah,
I want to see that. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's kind of where like the spin-off series can come from, in this show is like, you could have a whole Planet Mocklin spin-off series that is about a nation
Careful,
divided.
you're entering dangerous Caprica territory with that idea.
Well, and then I mean we can move on to the next episode here, which I think we kind of have to a little bit, and just talk about the ramifications of the fact that they got through to the Kalons. Right? I mean, we literally had Kalon Primary realize, wait a minute, these people are willing to sacrifice themselves for our benefit. They could have literally just let us all die, but they chose not to.
Oh, dude, there was so much more to it.
There is.
There was this scene before where Isaac stuns the dude instead of killing him, and Kalon Prime is like, why didn't you just eliminate him? And he's like, it wasn't efficient. And you see Kalon Prime like literally run all the algorithms on the efficiency of killing biologicals, and you kind of feel like he actually realized something. And then you have Ensign Karen actually take the time to like display what it really means to be a biological. Like in the case of Kalon Prime, if he knew how to run those computers, he'd have been like, yeah, I got this, I'll just re-upload, I'll be back. A lot along the lines of the altered carbon debate. But then to see a biological 100% guaranteed to die forever, to sacrifice themselves for literally the thing she hated more than anything. That kind of algorithm in real time and according to like all the metrics wouldn't happen, that is enough to send any AI into real questioning, like, oh
yeah.
And I love that, because I've yet to see a Terminator do that. I have yet to see any other version of AI realize what self-sacrifice actually A, feels like, and B, means to biologicals. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of moments like that. There was, I mean, you know, we had our first, you know, I didn't think Ted Danson would turn on the Union, but there it is, right? I mean,
yeah,
you know, we had, you know, and the fact that we had, you know, the Kalons knew that we had them over the barrel, right? Like, they 100% knew they were screwed. And they didn't quite get why we were willing to not just obliterate them right then and there. You know, like, you could tell they didn't get it, but they were like, well, it buys us time, so let's just go with it. And then
they were scared. That was definitely like a sign of AI showing fear. Like, they literally knew that their days had just now become numbered for the first time in the war. Yep. And I think that's something that, like, also is really beautiful to see, is like in the case of Terminator and stuff like that, their biggest fear, they send one Terminator to fix the job. Why not all of them? Why not 100 in a row, so that like it's an uneven battle? But in this case, like, they were like, clock's ticking, we'll find the leak. And they even said that, like, we're gonna find it. But to me, that really came off as like the most pitiful way of showing fear. Like, oh, I'll find a way out of here. Like, that's what it came off to me as. And I thought that was beautiful, is because, like, you don't see that complexity in AI characters.
Yeah, but we got it. And then, and their general annoyance that the Union lost control of this device was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, and then seeing everybody kind of try to come to terms with the whole situation, and just the where do we go from here-ness as part of the resolution of that conflict was absolutely perfect. I mean, what do you want to bet that the Kalon joining the Union had all the more to do with the fact that they're sitting there now realizing that there's a potential here that they actually could work with could work with a biological species to better their own.
Yeah,
Arende,
fan mail.
I think
Go ahead.
you are definitely on the money. Like, I got all of that.
Hold on. Remember, we're still a podcast, so fan mail from R&D. What's so impressive is they managed to convey emotion from what is a blank metal mask from Isaac and Primary. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was so little movements. Like the one that like sold to me that he was running the algorithm was there was just such a little, like, his head shot back, like he needed to run something. Like, he literally ran to the back of his head real quick. And then the same thing with Isaac, like, did you not calculate the efficiency of your actions? That's pretty negligent. Just in his, like, the information he goes, it wasn't efficient. And you see Primary go, oh, I'm supposed to be the most efficient thing in existence, and you literally broke me in that one, like, response. And that thing, like, yeah, you're so right, and it is literally the blank metal mask with just the tiniest muscle movements from the body actor that also still felt metallic. Like, they still felt like robots. At no point did I feel like I was suddenly getting a saucy robot. And like, the most emotional per se was Timogen. Or was it Timogen or was it Timothy? I can't remember.
Timus.
Or Timus. Yeah.
Timus. And Timus wasn't that flamboyant in his, like, motor functions in terms of his hands and arms, but he was definitely, like, closer. And I thought that was so crazy that you can feel all of that. Skogliotin says, they explained in episode 1 how the crew/audience projects emotions onto Isaac. Yeah, but I think that emotions being projected come from the nonverbal cues. Like, I think a lot more humans take nonverbal cues too seriously than they seem to understand that they do. But at the same time, like, the actors are kind of at fault, and I think that's part of the writing. Like, I don't doubt that there was a line in the script that said, and Primary steps back, and instead
Primary
the
is
actor
shocked.
literally just Primary is confused, right? And so the body actor is like, well, how do I show confused in a robot? Slight function back, right? And I do believe that we are projecting more emotion onto it, but I'm more coming at it from the idea of the algorithm, the idea of algorithmic thinking, that life is but a function, and if you can learn the entirety of the function, the entirety of the string of that function, you can then predict all future functions that will come from adding that, like, from that string. I think what Kalon Prime actually resembled was what a robot would have done. Like, you wouldn't have necessarily seen the refresh bar. And so in this instance, the best version of a loading screen for an infinitely fast quantum computer like a Kalon is a minor, like, digit backwards.
You're not going to get the little spinning beach ball of death, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to describe.
Yeah, like, now, that being said, too, I mean, we've also got to remember that, I mean, these are, actors behind those metal masks, and they know that even if they're portraying a robot, even if they're portraying a Mandalorian who can't take off his helmet, even if they're portraying a Vulcan, they have to show enough emotion through subtext, through body language, that we feel connected to the character still. And that's the trick, is to show enough so that we still get that they're a robot, that we still get they're emotionless. But as humans, we can still relate to them on our side of the uncanny valley. Because that's the interesting part of the equation, is building that balance. And, hats off to the actors in the Kalon suits. Yep. Because they have been doing a fantastic job of that the whole time.
I watched Marines march in concert, and it's the most intense marching I've ever seen successfully put on by thousands. but these Kalons whoop their ass. Like, it's so clean. It's so robotic. It is so uniform. It's scary beautiful.
Yeah. And you know, I'm just I 100% put it out there that these actors are working their butts off, and I mean,
it.
yeah, and they're doing an amazing job, especially when, like, okay, having worked with as many actors as I have, they're in a role where you're never going to see their face, so they're never going to get like screen credit for doing such an amazing job, but they're still giving it a 100% the whole way through. That's a huge amount of talent and a huge amount of effort on their part. Yeah. So really good job
huge
there.
Display of humility.
Yeah. And real quick, I just want to jump in, guys. First of all, everyone participating in the discussion, thank you so much. We do appreciate having you guys share your voice with us and share your perspective. And of course, obligatory like, subscribe, and share remark. All right, back to the discussion.
Yeah, I was actually also going to say, you know, I would argue that we do have absolutely the greatest chat ever to exist on YouTube. And it exists.
You guys actually, and you guys feel like you're talking to us.
Yeah, and honestly, we appreciate that. Keep it coming. Yep. We will continue to read any chat you guys throw to us.
Well, within reason.
Within reason, you know.
Oh no, I'll read it, but I can also self-bleep. You guys want to see it? I don't give a.
See, that almost seemed like I was force choking you at range there, right? Like, that was a social distance force choke right there.
That was my rap bleep.
But yeah, I mean, look, it was a fantastically done piece of work, and they've really set the stage for a complete, you know, I want to almost call it diplomatic musical chairs that they managed to arrange here, where they've flipped allies around, and we now have, you know, enemies who are friends, who are enemies, who are friends on every side of the board. And it just feels like real politics in a lot of ways in what you see in world politics. And I think that's what made it good, right?
Well, yeah. And I think we should definitely call it for what it is, because these writers deserve all the credit for understanding world building.
Yeah.
They have wholly built real races that definitely don't exist. As far as we know. Nobody's met a Mocklin. As far as we know, nobody's met a Kalon. And yet, for sure, these Kalons and these Mocklins are on par with the Klingons. They're on par with every other race we've ever met. Fan mail from RND, anything we throw at you, I could throw some French at you, advantage of living in Quebec. I got to learn 2 languages, lol. Well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I live in Ontario, so I do speak enough French to, you know, make Quebecers upset that I'm speaking their language. So I got you there. And for the record, I also speak German, Italian, some Latin, Spanish, and just enough Japanese to be insulting to a whole bunch of people. So, I got you covered.
Exactly.
A little bit of Russian too, actually, but that's what you get when your family moved around a lot.
3 words in Deutsch, and that's pretty much my only way to say good morning nowadays.
right.
But back to the Orville and back to what it resembles and what the writers are doing, man. Like,
yeah,
we're not the only ones discussing this show.
No,
but all the shows like us are definitely discussing this show.
Yeah.
And that's beauty.
And
creativity.
I will. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will ask, and I mean, this is what I'm going to ask of our, you know, tens of fans out there right now in the chat. Look, guys, you know, get the message out. We want more Orville, however you can.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just standing on your roof and shouting it out so that the neighbors get upset at you. Like,
yeah,
do it.
I myself, I'm on Twitter, and I'm tweeting out at least once a day hashtag renew the Orville, because this is quality sci-fi, it's quality television, it's quality everything. It's everything that made TV watching, especially Star Trek, great, is what this show is. And this is the type of content I want more of. And whether or not we get Orville spin-offs, or whether or not we get original sci-fi startups, Galaxia, I think I'm going to be on board. I'm going to give it all a try at this point, because the corporations, between Disney and between Paramount, they've tried, they've I'm not going to get into this and turn this into a negative rant stream. I'm just saying, we're done with you. I don't care anymore.
No. Here's the big thing, is almost everybody will be extremely vocal about what they hate. But almost nobody is honest to display what they love. And that is why everything that we love has been butchered and manipulated and maligned. And it's because we assume that people are like not listening to the comments. Like, we hope that our favorite writers aren't ingesting all the bullshit. But like, look what happened to George Lucas. The whole reason we only got the prequels from him and he finally sold was because A, he's getting old, and B, because there was so much mean shot at him. Like, he was shot down from ever believing that he could ever finish the Star Wars saga on his own. He wholly felt that like everything he would do would either be kind of liked, maybe, or absolutely hated by the vocal minority. And that's why he gave it to somebody else. And then what did we do the moment we got what we got from them? We butchered them. And make no mistake, I am 100% the problem. But that's why we started this podcast. That's why we're here. I'm here to right all the wrongs I've done before in terms of hating on writers. Instead, focus on the work. Tell them where they went wrong. Redline the parts you don't like, but then highlight the parts you love. Tell them what they're doing perfectly and beautifully, because we all remember that teacher that actually took the time to tell us we were doing good despite giving us an F.
And you know what? I will say this too. Like, there is a difference between negative criticism for negativity's sake and constructive criticism, right? If you were not a fan of Jar Jar, like R&D in the fan mail here, like, that's okay. But here's, I guess, what I would say. Okay, what would you have done to move the plot along in the places where Jar Jar moved the plot along? If you have a good solution to that, if you would have written the character maybe differently, instead of, like, my whole theory, or my whole thought on, if they weren't going to go the Darth Jar Jar way, which I 100% support.
Same.
But if they weren't going to go that way, I would have liked to have seen Jar Jar outcast because he had some sort of issue with the isolationist policies that the Gungans were taking by not being part of the not being a part of the larger community, and he wanted to go and explore and be part of the universe. I think that would have been an interesting way to take the character, and then we would have had an outsider perspective on a universe we knew, for new eyes to be reintroduced to the world. That's what I would have done. But I mean, I'm also, not directly a writer, so
the way
that's
that
a suggestion.
The way you're presenting it, though, that's what the audience should do. That's what the fans should do. Is if we absolutely hate something, we should find a way to make it work within the rules presented to us. There's this amazing podcaster / YouTuber, Never Knows Best, and Hello Future Me. And the two of them both take the time to legitimately acknowledge all of the production that's already gone into the work, and then B, go, I can still do it better with that exact same restriction. If these are the characters that have to be there, let me at the very least rewrite their dialogue. But also, RNDY, acknowledge that you hated Jar Jar and that it's okay for you to hate a character based off of your own life, I don't agree that anybody should have hated Jar Jar. He was
What the hell was that?
lamest and weakest attempt ever
Bro. No, stop.
No,
stop,
hear me out.
Stop.
Hear me out. I'm explaining that. I'm explaining that.
Stop.
So hear me out.
Stop. Please don't insult the audience.
No, because
like that was below the belt, dude.
No, because here it is. This is the thing that people don't seem to get about Jar Jar, is that Jar Jar was the worst version of propagating and promoting an indigenous species. It was weak, but it was also still respectful. Jar Jar comes from a species that was mostly completely unknown to the Naboo. And then Jar Jar's species as a whole is like literally the only reason the galactic economy that is the Nabooians could save themselves was because of this indigenous Atlantic empire that they had no idea existed until the end of the end of the Phantom Menace. Now Jar Jar, that's why he's the weakest in terms of representing this, and it's because they gave him the dumbest voice I've ever heard. But had he have actually come off as a bumbling adult rather than a bumbling child, he would have actually resonated better. And I think the idea of the Darth Jar Jar would have made the stupidity make sense finally. Like, what if it comes out where Yoda walks into the room and instead of Misa Darth Vader, instead it's, wow,
I'm going to kick your ass.
Found out. Yeah, well, no, even that, or just in terms of Yoda's and now the Empire has been found, or now that this is the death of the Sith Empire, and Jar Jar turns around and goes, no, this is the rise.
Actually, what I would have really loved, and I think this would have been just the perfect line, is, Yoda comes in and he's ready to fight the Emperor, and he comes into the room, and he's knocked the flunkies out of the way, and the chair turns around, and of course Darth Jar Jar is in there, and he goes, Misa thinks you were expecting someone else.
That works. But anyway, we don't have time to discuss Darth Jar Jar. That's a good theory for a Star Wars special at a later time.
Okay, so let's.
We are running. We're up against the clock.
That's why I say that the hatred of Jar Jar is unjustified past the explicit scenes that he's in, because the intrinsic nature of his character actually represents something that almost no film writer has ever attempted to create, which is a slightly differently educated indigenous empire that has also still risen to power.
All right.
Okay, but John, we
really got to move
all
on
right,
to
for sure.
All right, so the old man concluded previously, and of course we missed last week when we were going to talk about it, but I was kind of surprised by the ending, to be honest. Really kind of surprised by the way the directions this show took overall, and I got to hand it to John Lithgow and Jeff Bridges. They really came out strong, and this is quite an interesting family dynamic that we got through the course of this story. And so I do believe that season 2 has been confirmed. Another ballsy show like Severance, ending on a cliffhanger for the first season. That's impressive. I guess people are just like, look, if they like it, they get the closure. If they don't, oh well. And
such a resolving cliffhanger.
Yeah. So, but, guys, what'd you think? And it doesn't necessarily just have to be about the last episode, of course. We can talk about the series as an impact overall. But what'd you guys think?
I want to open with disagreeing with Joe Rogan. I am an avid fan of his, and so I do listen to a lot of his stuff. And so if I bring him up a lot, it's because I'm a part of his audience. But the reason I want to disagree with him is because he talked a lot about how the show draws to a lull and takes a lot of time to explain the exposition. And yeah, that's called good writing. Because in the greatest of ways, this show's lulls were literally the time between the event. They were the half hour that took place while this other half hour took place. They were the 2 hours of plane travel, of car travel, because sometimes a car ride literally starts out with, and this is why I'm so pissed, and then ends with 2 hours of music. Like, that's a thing that has happened, and this show did that so beautifully, so much so that, like, the reveal at the end to me was 100% obvious. Like, I didn't want to fault the people that chose the actress that played the daughter, and now I don't have to, because I was like, she looks nothing like a half white child.
Well,
and it makes sense.
I am gonna say this, getting to your point, I can't believe I'm the one who's gonna be doing this, but check this out. In the Old Testament of the Bible, there is a word that they use every couple of major plot points, and that is Selah. Now, the actual English translation to that would be pause and consider.
Yeah.
Every one of those moments that Joe Rogan would consider dragging moments, if you had started it by saying Selah, pause and consider what you saw previous to this point while you're reflecting on these, this part of the story, these kind of dragging parts of the story where we have some negative space for you to kind of take a moment and think about what you just saw. This show was not designed with a pause button, right? Yeah. I mean, I know there have been shows where I have to pause it and stop and think about what I just saw. This show was designed so that you actually have a chance to absorb what you've seen.
Yes.
And that, I think, is super important here.
Not only absorb it, but absorb it in the way that they want you to absorb it. Like, exactly. They want you to get a specific story in your mind, and they give you all the freaking outlets to do it. It's perfect.
Well, when you think about it, what exactly was he mentioned the first steps of spycraft, or the easiest part of it is getting somebody to emotionally be where you need them to be and think what you need them to think. Oh wait, is that what the writers were doing too?
The whole show.
Yeah.
They teased you with this violent action and then gave you a real world dilemma that actually puts your head into a spiral of confusion.
And then made you think about it the way they wanted you to think about it. This whole show was so meta when you start breaking it down, and you don't even realize it while you're watching it. I mean, it was just a mastercraft in getting the audience to where the writer wanted them to go the whole way. So, brilliantly
Absolutely.
Done, guys.
And not only did they nail that, but they were telling you they were doing that to you the whole time, and it's not until you just now pointed it out that I got it.
Excellent.
Like that's how good it was. Like I try to watch for those shows that do that. Arende fan mail says, never heard about the show, just read the synopsis. I'll have to give it a watch. It's a really fun post-career spy drama. And it's obviously the elder Jeff Bridges and the elder John Lithgow, which is the same John Lithgow since forever, because he's been 60 since he was 10. But the reality of the show is that you've never seen these actors be these characters. You didn't believe it was possible, and you also started to taste the craft that is acting.
Oh yeah.
Like it's so perfect, and clearly written so subliminally.
I will say this for somebody who is just getting into this show, which I really do hope you do check it out. the best way to think about this is, you know, imagine if Grumpy Old Men was a James Bond flick. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. Because these are two old spies who tried to fade away, but the universe would just not let them.
Bro,
And
this is if your dad was a spy and he just never really kind of told you the truth about what he'd done, and he just got done watching James Bond and said, "Hold my beer."
yeah, I mean, and there are great moments in it. And the neat thing about it too is this isn't the kind of show where, you know, the main character is like 70 or 60 or 70, somewhere in there, but they're acting like 20-year-olds. No, they're acting their age. That's what makes it good, right? That's what really makes it good. The fact that, like, in the first episode, the dude has to get up like 15 times in the night to go pee is absolutely perfect.
First minute.
Yeah, it's just like the you know, the fact that this guy, like, you're wondering for the two of them, you know, if they're not getting a little senile in their old age the whole way through. You know, you're wondering if, you know, they're to borrow a line from Lethal Weapon, if they're just too old for this stuff, right? Like,
but another thing, did any of you actually kind of want to see them fight? Because now that I think about it, I never once thought what would happen if John Lithgow and Jeff Bridges went toe-to-toe in this series. Like, I never actually wanted to see that. So, like, how did they prevent that? Like,
well, I think
by the way,
I think
fan
John
mail.
Lithgow's
Fan mail from Skogley says, haha, I'm in. So let's with that. We have two people that have never seen it.
I don't want to spoil it.
Let's stay away from the spoilers. Well, I mean, it's a good show anyway. I don't want to ruin it either way. And
but I will say this. I think that, you know, they are two different styles of agent, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think that comes through very clearly. And I think that difference complements the situation between them very, very well. And I think that's
the greater
an
story
excellent
as a whole. I just think it's so crazy that at no point did that thought come across my mind. Like, normally when there's two antagonizing forces, like, part of you is always like, yeah, let's put these two in a room and see who wins. But in this case, it was like, I'm going to watch the story that they present. I don't want to have my own version of events.
No. Well, again, because they led you down the garden path, my friend.
Yeah, and they did so well. Like, the writers of this, 10 out of 10. You guys know what you're doing.
Like, yeah, it's bad when you can watch a show and then afterwards go, oh, you SOBs, you led me down the garden path. I didn't think you were, you know, I didn't even realize I was there until I was knee deep in the roses before I, you know, the rug got pulled out from under me. And that is just perfect writing.
Well, and it was every episode did
the
that.
Garden for the last, like, week and a half because it's been over.
Yeah.
And then you just now pulled the rug out from under me. like, I just had a great time watching the show. I didn't know that, like, they were also telling me how to enjoy their show for the last 7 episodes.
Sorry, dude. I don't.
Great writing.
I guess the only way to say it is the only reason why I realized what was going on myself was because I've spent so long in, you know, mulling over this stuff and watching. There's tricks in cinematography that I've studied where I know when a director is trying to get you to focus on certain words and certain phrases. And when you start looking at certain characters and you start going, oh, the director's telling me to pay attention right here. He's giving me something valuable. Okay, how many places does this apply? And I started putting it together and I went, oh man. I you know what I mean? Like I got through about 3 or 4 episodes before I realized I was being played too.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't actually like I love that, because to me, like, there's a name for that skill, and this name of the skill is rhetorical analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you understand how to listen to the whole scene, not just part A, not just the actors, not just the words. Like, you're listening to every single part of it. And to me, like, it's a skill that I've actually fallen in love with and been working on for so long. But I love when somebody proves that I missed it, and I'm like, oh, that was awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I would rather be so trying to analyze the show for whatever reason and miss that beautiful moment, and then when I look back over my time watching it going, wow, they really did trick me. That's good writing.
Yeah, and for the guys that are going to watch it, please watch it. See if you picked up what I did. If you didn't, comment as well, because we would love to hear your feedback on The Old Man. And I think it would be fantastic if we had a follow-up a couple of weeks later when everyone else has seen it.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, too, I mean, we were going to start our Terminalist discussion this week, but unfortunately, with all the work we had to do, plus Nichelle Nichols passing away, decided to push it back another week. But The Old Man is also based off of a book. And so if we want to, we can absolutely plan a follow-up in like 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know how long Terminalist is going to take, but we can definitely plan that to try and get the book in if we want, and also to just do a comparison. And then that also gives our audience members a chance. Hey, if you guys, want to do a little book club with us as well on this one, because we are, like I said, we're doing Terminalist next week now. So please join us for that. But also, yes, we will, if there's enough interest, even if it's just a couple of you guys, we will absolutely make the time to follow up with a book comparison, plus to give us time to let's see, fan mail from Aaron D. I get so absorbed when I watch a good show or movie that its spoilers are meaningless to me. It's like becoming a mirror to what's being shown. Makes it very hard to find a show bad as I watch it for me.
Awesome.
Cool.
Dude,
You'll enjoy watching all of our reviews of everything then.
I'm very much in the same boat, Randy, because it is very hard to hear spoilers for me because I start waiting for them in the movie. But like I was spoiled to a lot of the parts of Spider-Man, and yet when they still happened, I was like, yeah, they happened. Like, even
he was like, he was coming out of the movie being like thwip.
Every time. I've never not.
That's
Most
tradition.
movies I reenact on my way out the door. It's because I am the character I just fell in love with.
Yeah. So for me overall, The Old Man is absolutely worth all 7 episodes for season 1, and it really is, especially as a writer myself. There's a lot of cues to take from this one, and I don't know what's changed from the book versus the screen adaptation, but even then, this is what I've started to realize too. Growing up, I had a lot of people say things like, movies aren't real storytelling, they're bad for your brain, same with TV shows, and there's a certain amount of truth to that, I'm not gonna lie.
They said about printed books.
Right.
There's no truth to that.
The point I'm trying to make is...
a lot of movies are bad at writing.
Exactly. Storytelling is storytelling. And you can have good stories, and you can have crap. And The Old Man is a very good story on screen, and I'm probably going to check out the book, but I am actually looking forward to Terminalist here soon, just because I haven't even seen anything about it, haven't followed anything about it, and I'm looking forward to just really diving in head first this week to get started on that.
I'm actually really excited for you guys to get into it, because I already watched it the day it came out, and I watched it twice the next day, because it actually, I'm gonna throw this warning out here, because I am a parent, so I will say this to all the other parents and all the people that may care. It is violent. And to me, that is something I love. But if your 4-year-old's in the room, a lot of parents care about that. So
viewer discretion has been advised.
Exactly.
Good looking out for the fans there, John. That's always good.
That's the way.
Yeah, we absolutely don't want to promote the stuff that we do try to make it a point if something's not family friendly to say, hey, what we do in the shadows probably not for the children.
No, dude, actually, that's actually a really funny one. What we do in the shadows, my nephew was over while my brother was watching it. And my nephew was like, he said, can I watch my iPad? And he was watching his iPad while my brother was watching the What We Do in the Shadows from episode 1 and stuff. And at one point, we decided to switch the show, and we switched it to Psych. And it coincidentally was another vampire episode. And when we switched over, my nephew was getting scared of more vampires in the show that wasn't about scary vampires. Like the other one was the scary vampire show, but these ones were the ones chasing detectives and stuff like that. And so I actually took the time to sit down and I explained to him, I was like, look, if you're scared of this show, that's a credit to the writers and not a failure on you. Like the writers wrote this to scare you. If you're scared, that means they did their job. It has nothing to do with your character. It has nothing to do with you being a baby. You're growing up. And he was like, oh. And then we watched the rest of the episode and he didn't jump once. He was like, oh, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was. and it was Psych. It was on the USA Network. It was literally like, it wasn't ever that scary. But the like music had heightened and all this stuff. And so then he started paying attention and listening. And so the reason why I want to give that disclaimer is like, also as a parent, I'm 100% on the main character's team, and like all the violence that he commits is like, yeah, that's what a good parent does in that situation. And so the violence isn't tasteless. It's like we're not trying to encourage you to watch Saw and just get over it. Like, no, this is a show that does have violence. It is graphic. It is violent in every image you can imagine.
But it serves the plot. It's not just for shock.
Yes, exactly. Well put, Corian.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I am willing to put up with almost, there are some caveats, but almost anything if it serves the plot to move forward. There are definitely some limits I've got, like, but if it's in there just for shock, like if you're showing violence just to be like, oh, look at me, I'm an edgy author that's going to show something to blow your mind. It has nothing really to do with the plot because I don't actually know how to write a plot, but I'm going to shock you. Then it doesn't work for me. If, however, it's like, no, in this situation, these people would react this way, then I can buy it.
The perfect comparison. So I'm not a huge fan of Saw. To me, it goes too far. Even Nightmare on Elm Street, especially the original adaptations, it went so far as to scare me as a child. But I absolutely love Cabin in the Woods. I absolutely love Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like, Tucker and Dale versus Evil is my favorite satire of horror, but it's the equal amounts of blood and gore. Yep. Like, it can be done in a way that some people, like me, can get over the horror. And that actually, like, because I watched Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, I was able to get through the Saw series. So, like, some of these shows are like palate cleansers, and it's really easy to get into more horror because you took a palate cleanser. But the Terminal List is not a palate cleanser. No. So, like, if you're not in a mood for violence, it's not a time to watch it. But if you are in a mood for, like, some fun Jason Bourne.
And fan mail from Aaron D. Violence that serves the story. I agree with being shown what Corion is saying as I type. So,
dude, heart you.
All right, let's go around the room real quick. So our overall feelings on the old man on a scale of 1 to 7. 7, of course, being perfection, and then, of course, we have a special grading system that we just decided to adopt because everyone does 10, everyone does decimals, everyone does 5. So we're like, well, what's better than 5 but not as cool as 11? Or excuse me, 10? 7. So we have the 7 scale. I mean, we could have gone to 11. That might have been a niche in of its own, but
let's be honest. I'm the one that said we should do 7, and I never said why.
Our Andy mails in is lucky. 7 is lucky anyway, so I agree.
Exactly. But no, I chose 7 because even when it's a 4 out of 7 versus a 3 or a 5, it's a clear difference than a 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
4 out of 7 is like you made a thing.
You could watch it once, and it's probably kind of forgettable. And I put the 4 out of 7.
Not necessarily forgettable. So a 4 out of 7 to me is like, you know who you should share this with. Like, you know that one person that's gonna love the fuck out of it. Sorry to swear. I shouldn't have said that.
No,
well, that's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one.
So there's like the 4 out of 7 is the you know who this belongs to. The 3 out of 7 is you tried. 2 out of 7 is why did you try? 1 out of 7 is I don't know who you thought you were writing to, but you failed.
Yeah. I should actually get that into
wrong
a
address, return to sender.
So the way I do it is an absolute 7 is sheer perfection. I will build an effigy to it and begin a cult to worship it.
You're up to like what, 12 now?
Well, no, 6 is 6 is like a solid show that I think is amazing, right? A 5 is, this is something I would watch with my wife or with friends. A 4 is like, I'll watch it and I'll probably forget about it within a week or two. A 3 is something that I probably would never watch again unless forced to.
But you kind of have to for context as well. That's where I start to get the 3s and 2s.
Right. A 2 is just bad. And a 1 is so bad that there is a group of friends that I have to show this to watch their reactions as they like have these horrified images on their face. And I'm watching them. I'm not watching the show.
It's so funny. I used to be a part of this group in the Marines that we had all started. It was called Terrible Movie Tuesday. Yeah. It was almost never on a Tuesday, but it always had to be the worst movie you could find on whatever streaming platform you wanted.
Fan mail from A. Rendy. Just noticed I butchered your name, Corione. Sorry.
That's all good.
I just butchered yours in return, RND. So we are now square.
Skogly Jotun says Neil Breen.
Okay.
And I say question mark.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, oh crap, what trend are the kids doing now? So yeah.
Oh, you kids and your names.
So now that we've explained our 7 scale, why don't we go ahead and go around an audience? Please feel free to give. Well, you guys haven't seen it yet. So in the future, whenever the audience would like to participate, please give us your thoughts out of 7, or whatever scale you guys prefer to use. We'll translate it into a 7. And so let's go ahead, Corione, why don't you start us off for the Old Man entire series all at once?
Entire series all at once, I'm giving it a solid 6. I think there are places it can go with a season 2 that I really want to see it go. But this was an absolutely solid go watch it kind of show.
Yeah. John?
I give this one a 7 because my 7 isn't build a tome to it, but if somebody did build a tome, I could understand why.
Fair enough.
Before you give yours, we've got some fan mail here. Neil Breen is apparently the greatest bad director ever. I don't know. I've got some ones that might take the cake here.
Yeah, Tommy Wiseau for one.
I don't think you do. I'm looking at this right now, looking at his directography, if you will. I'll get a screenshot for you.
Well, Tommy Wiseau's pretty bad, and I mean, well, Corione hates Michael Bay for understandable reasons. I think he sucks too, but not as bad as
I'm trying to find the name of this director because I've like mentally blocked him out. Oh, Yui Boll.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's right. I forgot he exists. Yeah. Well, anyway, for the Old Man, for me, it's a. I think I'm with you on that one, Corione. It's a 6 out of 7 for first season. I was, it's ballsy to end on a cliffhanger, but that's also why I kind of it feels like it's there, but it also feels like this show could just drop off the face of the earth and be forgotten at the same time. Like, I don't feel like it captured me enough. I'm gonna watch season 2 because it was good, well paced throughout, and I liked what I enjoyed, unlike Strange Worlds. This show was good, and I'll be back. It's just there were some other issues I think we discussed in certain episodes that it shit, I don't know.
It got into nitpicky places for us though. Like, we had to look for problems.
Yeah, we did. So it might actually be a 7 for about it, because it really was just every episode we only see. I haven't even. We started a formula what we did not like, what we did like, but I think that's only going to apply to garbage, because the general discussion's been on the whole time, and I don't think there's really nothing too bad I could say. So I think there are some areas I'd have to go back and watch, because I think there are some minor plot holes that probably were overlooked. But as far as characters and everything, I mean, this would definitely win awards for me, hands down.
Yeah,
or at least be nominated.
Another bad director, dude, Ed Wood. Like, how can we not remember Plan 9 from Outer Space?
Okay, yeah, that's good. But any final thoughts on Old Man before we move on?
Go watch it, people. We'll, we won't wait for you here right now, but go watch it once we're done.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. Over the weekend, one of Star Trek's greatest characters, and I mean, let's be honest, in TOS, TNG, Voy, Enterprise, and I mean even beyond, obvious, or not beyond, but the JJ movies, they're all great characters. But we wouldn't have Star Trek without her, and we wouldn't have Uhura, a great inspirational character, without her. And I just. You know, you never really realize the impact someone has on a show until you just take a step back and look at all the history that she did. And even just watching the character grow so much from the original series to the next, or not the next gen, the Lost generation, as Corion put it. And she's kind of sort of the background character, but at the same time, she was very important to the rest of the crew. And I think Sam Witwer actually shared some thoughts a couple years ago, I think, or maybe it was a year ago, I can't tell anymore, about his encounter with Walter Koenig, and how Koenig was like, oh, you guys are there for Kirk and McCoy and Spock, and he's like, absolutely not. Every character absolutely mattered. Every character plays a role, especially in the original series. And that is also the same sentiment is very true when it comes to Nichelle Nichols as Uhura. And for me, I just want to say, Nichelle, you're an inspiration to many people, but you're even an inspiration to me here, and even just doing this little silly show, because not only did you have to overcome adversity with the whole civil rights era thing going on at the same time.
Adversity of the highest order.
Yeah. You also had to overcome yourself. And that's just it. If she didn't overcome her own insecurities and ambitions, people say that, well, Dr. King talked her into it. Yes, that's true. He absolutely was helpful in making sure that she took the role. But you guys got to remember, she still had to make that choice.
Yeah, a woman who had to be advised from the most prominent member of her community. Like, this is literally like if Jesus told a Christian, no, stay on the show.
And it's not just a member of her community. Dr. King and even Uhura, by extension, was our community. And everything that it means to be an American was exemplified by Dr. King's resolve and what he did to make things better.
I think it goes beyond that. I think he was arguably one of the best human beings around for the way he handled things. And really all he did was ask. He didn't tell her. He didn't do anything like that. He was like, please do this. We're talking about a guy who potentially could have, he could have really made a fight of a lot of things if he had wanted to. But he just went to her and was like, no, please do this. This means so much to the community. He just asked. She was the one who had to actually walk that line. And
that was his fight. That was the war that he wanted to wage. And that was the war
right.
of
But I mean,
nonviolence, of
I know.
being present, even when nobody wants you in the room. If you know you deserve to be there, please sit in the chair that's been offered.
Right,
and
but at the same time, right? Like, at the end of the day, she was the one who had to walk that. She was the one who had to sit in the chair.
Yes.
And the amount...
She didn't get lucky. It was not like people were nice to her.
Fan mail from Orville Nation. Hey guys, just in time to reminisce on one of the greatest characters in all of sci-fi.
Yeah.
The greatest actresses of all time.
Actress and singer too. She wasn't just she wasn't just an actress. She also sang. She also I think one of my favorite episodes with her is probably Trouble with Tribbles, just because she's so fascinated by a ball of fur. And she delivers it so well, how she genuinely like she makes that ball of fur come to life in that scene. Just with that kid in the candy store vibe, and I love it. It's so TOS cheesy, but it's so awesome. And
on top of that, though, her whole attitude on screen, like what we saw from the character, that she had a lot of say in creating. She really just exuded this calm confidence in what she was doing that really set a tone for the kind of the not entirely the foreground, shall we say, that she knew she belonged there. She exuded that belonging. She sold us on her belonging there, on her having well earned it long ago to be in that chair, and that's why we believed it. And that's what I think made her the fantastic actress she was.
To me, the thing that makes her the fantastic actress that she was the fact that I didn't know about the Martin Luther King bit until she passed. I've always known about her is that she's a lieutenant of Starfleet who can very easily announce the worst message of all time in a calm, managerial voice. Like, I never would have imagined that this actress suffered doubt about her role. And then it obviously dawned on me, like, what was the 1960s? And, like, all those things come into play, and all that speaks more to her character. Like, I don't see a naive, afraid of her chair, afraid of her role character. I see a woman of power doing her job according to this, fictional universe, but she's doing it in such a way that I'm like, well, yeah, she's the only one that knows what's going on. And mind you, I didn't watch the Star Trek TOS in the 60s. I watched it in the 90s and the 2000s. And so for me, my relationship with what everybody knows about racism is mostly historical. It's mostly unseen, mostly unknown. And that's why I love hearing about what she went through now and knowing how well she did her job. Like, she never came off as the broken and beaten.
Yeah. And here's what I want to leave you guys with as a little piece of something to chew on here. We all know that interracial kiss caused a lot of controversy, right? But consider this for a second, right? As much as, like, we're three white dudes sitting around discussing it from our perspective, consider the black community too, right? She's kissing a white boy, right? Like, they're already having some serious issues. I wouldn't be surprised if she caught a lot of flack from the black community for that kiss, if not more than what, CBS got in letters.
Yeah.
Like, I can only imagine the level of just insanity she had to deal with from her own community for trying to forward this concept, right? Like when you think about it, yeah, and she still did it, and she knew it was going to happen. She knew she was going to catch about 6 different kinds of flack, but she did it, and you know, she was like, "Look, let's do this, let's get it done, and you know, we'll deal with the repercussions as it comes up."
You know, they actually referenced that in probably one of the best ways you could on Futurama. With the Star Trek special episode where she's like,
oh yeah,
I can't remember the exact line off the top of my head but it's like she's like, you know, sacrifice. I can't in the 3rd season I kissed Shatner, and she's like, you know, talking here like the way that it comes off is it's like, you know, ew, I had to kiss Shatner, but it's like now that you've said that, Corione, there was more behind that line when she said it than just, oh yeah, I kissed Shatner. No, that was the first interracial, which is an oxymoron, by the way. There's only one human. The first quote interracial unquote kiss on live TV. But this was a big deal for social change, and you're absolutely right, Corione. This is not small time stuff that she was dealing with. She probably did get flack from multiple directions over it,
from all
unfortunately.
sides.
And that's why, to me, one of the reasons, of course, of many, why she's kind of been a personal inspiration in my life. And I never really fully realized it until really thinking about it over the last few years. And this is the other thing too, John. One of the reasons you're only hearing this so much is because when she tells this story about the adversity that she faced, people have to like drag it out of her because she was so humble about it. She was not a bragging type of person. She just loved life, and she wanted the best for people, and that's what she did.
More than anything, the reason why I'm one of the ones that really supports separating the art from the artist, but except for in death, when you die, your art becomes your legacy.
Correct.
And if that is what Nichelle Nichols is leaving behind, the legacy she is leaving behind is that of the noblest warrior.
Yes.
The most honorable. Like, she is the most honorable Viking of all of modern time. She cut through the hardest industry and is literally, like, people have been dressing up like Uhura since the first Star Trek movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's not something that many or any hero has ever achieved in modern time, because like as far as modern heroes goes, it becomes really quick to find out how much evil they truly committed while they were coming off as heroic. But in the case of Nichelle Nichols, it turns out her character on the ship was an iota of the amount of character that Nichelle Nichols actually exemplified in her daily life. Like, while it may have been hard for her to actually take that responsibility on, she did.
Yes, she did.
She killed, and she's gone on to motivate and propagate a loving universe, because despite adversity, she persevered. As far as noble heroes go, I can't think of another in the last 100 years.
Well, I mean, she is who I would sit there and go, like, this is a classy lady. Like, the humble, the optimistic, everything you can think of, that she's just oozed class. And, I think that's like one of the most wonderful aspirational things about her is just how classy she was through all the stuff that came up and about. The fact that she just, did what she needed to do, and it was just amazing, You
can truly see her class in the fact that William Shatner sold himself to commercials and she never did.
Yeah.
Because she never sold herself. She was herself where she needed to be in whatever position the director said she was in.
She did sell herself.
Are you a
but
lieutenant on a ship?
She did sell herself. She just maintained her own brand. She didn't sell out. Yeah, she didn't sell out.
Rented. She let other people pay her for her presence. Whereas everybody else is just trying to be bought. She was like, no, I'm a person first. I don't think I can like subject myself to this scrutiny. Oh, the leader of a group that I actually believe in is asking me. Okay, for that, I'll risk it. Okay, I risked it. What next? Years and decades of hatred and love from the fans, but hatred from the outside audience, to the point that like she finally passed away in a world where like most of the people that were against her presence in films now are just trying to get one more halfway decent white actor into a film. Like the people that hated her are meaninless to Hollywood.
Well, people that hate anybody for any reason are meaningless, really.
Now, that being said, we've got a fan mail here from Arendi here. Not only that, consider she helped reduce racism not by fighting, but with an act of love, a kiss.
Yes.
And you know what? That is why I think that whole situation was absolutely amazing.
Her fight wasn't just one kiss. Her literal fight was her presence from episode 1.
Yep.
Like the 1960s did not have black actors or actresses.
Well, they did, but they were
Star
playing like
Trek
maids and like, you know, they were playing like maids or janitors or the hired help or something like that.
They had background. They
she
did not have actors or actresses. They did not have stars, and she
was an equal.
Did.
Yep.
She had character development episodes.
Bro,
right?
She is literally the main character of the new Star Trek in terms of Strange New Worlds. We're retelling her story. What was one of the biggest changes in the other Star Trek with Christopher Pike? Not Christopher Pike, the other.
Yeah, they moved her to the forefront.
She is the main love interest between Spock and Kirk. Like, that's what this lady did. Not only did she defy racism, she defined real love interest. Like, she exemplified what an honorable human being is, but then she was still a lovable human being. Because like a lot of honorable people are really hard to love because they're always nerdy doing the right thing.
And for the record,
somebody to fawn after.
Yeah, and for the record, I don't know if you guys ever met her at a convention.
Sadly,
she was just the sweetest. Like, now by the time I met her, she was kind of an older lady, but she was just the sweetest old lady. Like, I half expected that I'd be going up there, having a few seconds of chat with her. She'd hand me a cookie and send me on my way kind of person. Like, she was just that nice, right? And it's rare you meet that nice a person, right?
Yeah. Fan mail. Oh, go ahead, John.
I got it. Friend mail from Arendi. Wasn't trying to reduce what she accomplished, but put it succinctly. And I don't think you were, Arendi, but what I was calling more to is that the fight started earlier. Because what a lot of people think about fights is that they start with the first punch. But in reality, the fight truly starts with the acceptance that there will be a meeting at 3 o'clock under the flagpole.
Yep, it just started. It just started by her just being on the bridge. That was it. But you know, what did it culminate in though?
And yeah, exactly. What it culminated in was the first kiss of a black American and a white American on international American television or national American television. It never happened before. That was the KO punch of her position. Yeah. And you are absolutely right by pointing it out. An act of love as the ultimate knockout towards racism. But her fight, round 1, was her taking the chair.
Yeah.
And that, I think, also needs to be added to the discussion.
Good points. Way to build on that and really structure that. That's I totally agree with everything you just said, and yeah, it's There's so much that we can continue to say, and I'm not saying we have to stop. We can still just go. I'm sitting here listening to all this and all these other small tidbits that I kind of half heard or hadn't heard before, and I love all of it. This is how I would, if I'm to be remembered in this way, which I go either way for me. This is the impact I want to have. We're trying, I'm not trying to make this a sad thing. This is celebrating her life.
Call to action.
Oh, yeah.
That's the true call to action, is because, like you said, she never really talked about how much she was hated. But when you watch modern,
do you know why?
You watch modern people of interest, they always talk mostly about those that hate them. Yeah. And instead, she was the honorable hero and talked about the ones that loved her, and then also loved whoever approached her, as described by Corione, taking the time to say that, like, when he met her at a convention, she was loving. Like, this woman suffered racism beyond any version we've ever seen today. She has every right to be the meanest person you've ever met. Every excuse, justification, like, even if I met her before she had passed away a couple days ago, if I'd met her the day before and she was like, "Get the fuck out of here, white boy," I'd have been like, "Yes, ma'am, you deserve that. You have every right to say whatever you want."
And then you jump on Twitter and be like, "Oh, Nichelle Nichols told me to F off."
Okay, so
I can die now. Wait.
You know what, though? I think, that might make Nichelle Nichols like the patron saint of this channel, because we try to focus on the positive too. So I think we, we're following. Yeah, we try to focus on the love here too. So I think we're trying to live up to the example she set for us. I think in a lot of ways.
And that's why I said she's an inspiration to me, because I've had to overcome certain. Now I'm not comparing myself to her struggle. Please don't misunderstand. This is not me saying we're the same. This is me expressing the fact that I'm inspired by the fact that she overcame a mountain, and to do this show is like overcoming an anthill. But because she overcame that mountain, I know that every Tuesday I can come and conquer this anthill. And that's really what I want to express, is like she does inspire me to keep doing this type of stuff, and even eventually probably need to pick up some videos or watch some videos on how she handled fan interactions, because that she probably was the best at it. Or at least one of the best.
This is absolutely one of the reasons why I love doing this show live, because what you just said, Corione, about her being the patron saint of the podcast, if anything, that's exactly the standard I live up to in my personal life. But to finally get the opportunity to have a hero worthy of following, somebody who takes on the hardest of suffering and then becomes what she became, absolutely she should be the patron saint, and absolutely she should be the standard, because as our show grows, we're definitely going to get negative feedback. We're definitely going to get harsh words.
Mm-hmm.
But if Nichelle Nichols could take it in a world where her friend, Martin Luther King, who asked her to do it, got shot by the FBI, Like
I said, if she can conquer her mountain, we can definitely conquer the anthill that is this show. So
that's it.
And go ahead, Corione.
Yeah, so I think, I definitely think that that's a thing. I was also going to say too, and it's sad too, because as we continue to lose original Trek actors, right? Like, as we slowly do, I think we're going to see more and more of these wonderful stories about each of these actors come out. And I would just advise everybody, don't wait, try to, talk to these actors about their work now while you can, right?
Yeah, don't wait. Those actors show up here.
Yeah.
We love you. We love you 100%. And B, we want to get your story out while you can tell it.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, George, Walter, if you guys want to come on the show, we would be glad to have you. Right?
You're one of my favorite human beings. One of my favorite Twitterers. He's so saucy. I love it.
he may be the better Twitterer, but man, Walter as an actor, like Walter Canning, if like everyone knows him from Star Trek, but if you've watched B5, Walter Canning.
He was in B5?
Oh yes. He plays arguably the best bad guy in the whole series. Like, shockingly good. Alfred Bester. The best way to describe it is in Babylon 5, when telepaths start becoming a thing, somebody has to police them. And they only picked the biggest a-hole they could possibly find in the entire galaxy. And that is his character.
Yeah. But real quick before we head to the final couple minutes of the show here, I just want to say, Nichelle, thank you so much for your portrayal, for your heroism, for everything you did for Star Trek, and really just for the human race as a whole. I wish I had had the chance to meet you, and you know what? From my perspective in life, I think I'll get that chance. Just it's going to be a bit of a wait for me. So,
hopefully not for a while. We still got a lot of shows to do.
I know.
I'll see you on the other side.
We'll see you on the other side, but not till I'm 89, hopefully. But with that, guys, we do just think we got a couple of quick shout outs to do, or
yeah.
I definitely want to create my new segment whenever you guys are.
Well, let's first just quickly shout out Orville Nation, who decided to join us here into the channel, into the chat. Guys, check out Orville Nation. He does some really amazing work covering the Orville.
Guys, and it's not just the Orville coverage that he does. He's gotten so much notice now that he has literally had producers and directors. I was on a stream where he had John Cassar, who just showed up and did an impromptu thing. Guys, the Orville Nation is now about to go to the moon because of this stuff. Like, he wants to do more of that type of interviews, and we definitely want to help promote that and help to help grow the We Grow Together family. And then, of course, guys, shout out to all you watching right now. Thank you so much for sticking around for the discussion. Aaron D, please come back every single time. Tell all your friends, tell all the people that you think should be in on this. If you guys want to help us succeed, I mean, you hear it every single YouTube video, and I tried to make a joke of it when we started, but I'm realizing, you know what? If we're serious about growth, we got to do the plug. Please like, please subscribe, please blast this to all your friends and family on the socials. Every little bit counts. Every single subscriber matters. And we are glad to have your guys' voices here and to share your opinions.
And you know why Arendi is so amazing, right? And has such good insight. Well, because he's a subscriber on my YouTube channel.
All right, so we don't have to plug your channel. Moving on. Maria with T and Telly. No, I'm just kidding.
So I really appreciate him coming over, and because we're on my channel, I don't talk as much about pop culture news, but I do talk about the things we can learn from pop culture from more of a spiritual perspective. So things like, why, Men in Black was such a good passing of the torch movie, or, how to properly fight a wizard duel. All of this can be found on my channel. Please subscribe.
Yes, and of course, where was I going? I don't know. I forgot. Continue. Yes. T and Telly with Maria. Maria with T and Telly. Please, great stuff there. She started to do more. Wisdom and just kind of meditation type guidance and just really good stuff there. But also, she's just a great person to hang out with, whether she's talking pop culture or talking Zen Buddhism. Just great conversation and perspective. And here's the other thing, guys. When it comes to spiritual stuff, I'll be more open about that as time goes on. But it's not about. I don't promote preachers here, unless you really want to go. You want a preacher, go to church. And also, if you're looking for judgment, find religion or go commit a crime, because it's not going to come from me. And that's just it. There's no judgment with Maria with Tea and Telly. She's a great energy to be around, and that's why we're working together to try to help grow our fan bases and really just kind of help each other find each other's audience, because there's lots of variety out there, and we want to try and help promote each other's good variety. And also we are open to suggestions as well. We're not totally one-sided here. Mostly one-sided, but not totally. And
yeah, we're like militantly on the side of do the right thing, try to be decent to each other, like that's where we're like orthodoxy, of like try to be decent and reasonable human beings.
Right. Yeah. If you can't be decent and reasonable, it's not really going to work out here, because we gotta try and help fit the motto, which is restoring respect into discourse. And that doesn't necessarily mean being nice in conversation all the time. Sometimes blow-ups happen, and it's what we do after the blow-up that matters. The coming back to the table is what we're really trying to encourage, not just hey guys, be nice all the time. It's no. Just
we've disagreed on this channel like huge,
Yep.
but we still respect the heck out of each other even in our disagreements.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. This Thursday, speaking of Corion's channel, we will be doing another Messages from the Rogue Council. What it's called, right?
Transmissions.
From the Rogue. See, I'm still sick and tired. Transmissions for the Rogue Council, where if you guys like Coast to Coast AM type stuff, please join us there. We are going to what are we discussing this week, Corion?
We are going to discuss missing people and where they could have gone. Yeah, exactly. And I'll give you guys a little sneak peek on something that I'll get into more details later, but here we go. Guys, were you aware that the percentage of missing Americans per year directly matches, if you were to take it as a ratio, the number of animals that get
And I'm
picked
Petey York
off
with the
in a
Ryder
herd?
Brothers. That's all the time we have for tonight.
Yeah, right. There we go.